My name's Cosser, and I want to tell you my experience of when my son had flu and how it affected the whole family. So it was Christmas, it was coming up to Christmas in 2018, so the week before schools broke up. Daniel came home from school one day and said, "Oh, I've got a really bad headache, I don't feel well at all." He went to bed. A couple of hours he came in and he was shaking like a leaf. He felt terrible. He didn't like any of the lights, and he had a really high temperature. He went back to bed after giving him some Calpol, and the next morning he was being sick. He had a very high temperature. He couldn't keep Calpol anything down, and he didn't like the lights and just had this terrible headache. So I rang the GP because, of course, my first thought was it was meningitis. They said they weren't sure what it was, but we went down and they saw him, and they were concerned but said, let's just keep an eye on him. By the afternoon, he was still vomiting, had terrible headaches and no improvement. So we had an anti-sickness injection, and again, we were just observing him. That went on for a couple of days. He couldn't eat anything, he couldn't drink anything. And by the third day, we went back to the GP, and the GP said, look, I don't think it's meningitis, but I'm not sure. I think we need to get a second opinion. So we went down to the hospital, and it was really interesting because as soon as we got there and saw a doctor, she said to me, I think your son's got flu. And I said, oh, because I had always thought that flu, often you get very bad cold symptoms, but also you get aches and pains all over your body. And he didn't have that at all. It was just the vomiting, the bad headaches, and the very high temperature. So they did a flu swab, and that came back positive as being flu. So we felt better knowing what it was, that it was flu. So we went back home, we carried on what we were doing, trying to get the Calpol in him. And probably by about day 5, he then started getting some more of the general symptoms you'd expect, I thought you'd expect from flu. So then he started sort of have a really heavy cold and very achy body. Dan lost about half a stone in a week, so he really did affect him. I was obviously worried because I'm an asthmatic, and my husband has a long-term health conditions as well, and unfortunately we both had flu over Christmas. So it wasn't good, but actually we knew what it was because obviously Dan had it, so we were almost expecting the symptoms. We were obviously doing lots of hand hygiene to try and stop us from getting it, but it obviously didn't work. Due to my asthma, I ended up on steroids because of the flu, because I then had a chest infection. So it did affect us quite considerably. We didn't have a Christmas dinner that year at all, because we all felt so unwell with it. But yes, it was a huge impact. Daniel says to me now, he says, oh, I wish I could have a flu vaccine because I don't want to feel like that again. He still remembers it to this day because he felt so ill with it. None of his friends had it. We're not sure where he got it from, but it really did affect him, and he always says, I never want that again. My advice to parents is, please get your children immunised. The flu it can be nasty to some children, and actually they can have different symptoms to what I expected. Obviously Daniel had the vomiting, which was quite severe, and not all children get that, but certainly children can get vomiting side effects from flu more than adults can. I would recommend that everybody gets their flu jab. I have my flu jab every year. I never forget now. I make sure I always have my flu jab because I've seen it and I've been poorly from flu, and I don't want it again, and nor does my family. So it is really important that if you're offered the flu vaccine, please do have it. I know some people think there's lots of side effects from the flu vaccine, but believe you me, the flu is far worse than the side effects of having the vaccine.